two layers of each. One is fused. The first piece to do for a two-piece collar, you're actually going to join the piece of the collar. This is the same for the other types of collars as well. So when I do teach you guys the one-piece collar that rolls over itself, sewing is exactly like this. Sewing collars for blazers and all sorts of things, this is the process. What you need to see that's happened here, if I overlap my collar, this is very, very small. But I actually made a pattern for my top collar that is a bit bigger. You see the corners are a little bit bigger. The top is about, well, it doesn't show as much, but it's about 0.5 bigger here, and it's gradually reduced to maybe 2-3 millimeters here, and then goes to nothing here. The big piece is the piece that is fused. And when I sew this up for you guys, you'll understand why this piece is made a bit bigger. But basically, as you're sewing them together, you need to try and match the seam allowance as best as you can. So, step one, we're actually going to stretch the piece that is not fused to match the fused piece that is bigger. We're just going to sew 1 centimeter seam allowance up here.
Do you draft the bigger piece?
Yes. Look, I'm going to pull this piece, pulling it to match my bigger collar. First thing, this top seam is joined. And what you're going to do is you're actually going to put that edge stitch for the roll. And to do that, if you guys remember, we push the seam allowance toward the piece that we don't want to see. In this case, you push it toward the piece that is not fused. When you start your edge stitch, you want to start a couple of centimeters in. Centimeters. Now, a couple of centimeters in from the edge of the collar. And make sure that this seam is completely open. If you need to iron it before, iron it before. that little stitch and the fact that you've made the collar bigger will mean that this rolls over perfectly and you never see this seam at all. This seam is well hidden by quite a few millimeters
Do you make it
behind the
bigger
collar.
or the other one smaller?
Oh, you
Outside.
make the outside bigger. Yeah. It is marked on your handouts, guys. Top collar, under collar. So when you now go back and look at it again, it shows you how to make the pattern for both. So now we're going to close the sides and then attach it to the stand. Again, you're going to stretch this to match the bigger piece. Take another centimeter here. This corner needs to be trimmed quite well, very close. Getting this, getting this to be really pointy is very important without actually ripping it.
Don't you use thread?
Sorry?
You never use the thread? Like
Thread
for the
to what?
corner? Like
What do
when
you
you
mean?
sew into the corner?
Yeah, and then
Sew into the corner.
And yeah, and then you're like,
you wrap a thread around the corner.
Yes.
And then you pull it.
Yeah, you can do things like that. But if you are careful, you can just pull it out with a needle and it will be fine. A good trick is to, when you're sewing inside a collar, is to use very small stitches. That way, if you trim very, very close, you won't have this happening because the tension of the thread wasn't right. It looks like that. So if you have very, very small stitches here, you can trim very close. You can have a very nice pointy collar here. I'm just securing the corner.